I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Where did Yoda keep his jelly beans?
I don't know.
In a jar jar.
Dude.
Coming to you live from the snowy dunes of Hoth at Echo Base Radio. I am Blue Leader 99 and this is
Green Leader 88.
And today we're going back to 1999, the best movie year ever, to start the Star Wars prequels with The Phantom Menace. Oh, 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I was excited to see this, so much to the point that I was almost begging my dad to take me to the midnight showing, but he was like, "No, you're just gonna fall asleep, but we'll go the opening weekend." And I did.
Yeah, I went, I didn't see it opening weekend. I think it was like 2 weeks later. We went to, so we didn't really have a movie theater in my town that was really good. So we had to travel to Mooresville, about an hour away to see it.
That's dedication.
Yeah, but yeah, I remember one of my core memories from that is I remember before the movie we stopped off at KFC. Remember when they were doing all the episode 1 toys?
Yeah.
From that?
Yeah. KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut were having that triple deal promotion. Yep. Yeah.
And I remember the one I got was the goober fish with the ship attached to its mouth, and you could pull the ship out. It was attached to like a string.
Oh,
and
man.
You would let go and it would wind back into the mouth.
So it's kind of like one of those cars or something that you would pull back and unleash. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was pretty cool.
Okay. I remember I had this Rubik's Cube like thing, but it wasn't a puzzle. You would just fold it different ways and it would show different scenes from the original trilogy. Yep. So yeah, that was one of the things that I remember. But yeah, ever since Star Wars became part of the pop culture zeitgeist, I think that this was the movie that turned Star Wars into an event series. So, you were looking forward to the next installment. I think that this is what started that whole trend. And we also have to remember this was coming out during what people have referred to as the best movie year ever, because look at what else was coming out. You had the first Mummy, the first Matrix, the Blair Witch Project, American Beauty, Eyes Wide Shut, Being John Malkovich. I mean,
well, it was 1999. We had to get everything out of the way before Y2K hit and destroyed us all.
Oh yeah. I mean. And I mean, if you didn't see episode 1 in theaters before then, tough luck, because it wasn't going to be out on VHS for until next year when everyone's dead.
Yep.
And we don't have VCRs because we were all going to revert to the Stone Age. But I love episode 1. This was one of my... I had this weird thing where growing up, every single new Star Wars movie instantly became my new favorite because it was just the newest
new
one.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah, it was just the newest one. But I think that this was the Star Wars movie that perfectly encapsulated the prime demographic for us as the new generation coming into Star Wars. Even though we had seen the original trilogy and we grew up with it to a certain point, we were still children at the time of its release, because I was 8 in 99. How old were you?
11.
11. Okay, so yeah, we were still in the prime demographic. We were still getting toys. I had a Star Wars Episode 1 pod racing bed set, bed sheet set. I had a pod racer Anakin toothbrush holder even.
Yep. I still have a whole drawer full of Episode 1 figures back in the room.
Yeah, okay, but we'll get into merchandise in another episode. But
merchandise.
Yeah.
We'll get into that movie later on, too.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait to talk about that one. But Episode 1 takes us back, 30 years before the start of the original trilogy?
Yeah.
Give or take a few.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, give or take a few years. So we're going back, And we not only get to see the start of Anakin Skywalker, but we also get to see the start of the downfall of the Old Republic transforming into the Empire. So we're starting off in a different era. We're going to see the start of some things. We're going to get some big surprises, but let's start off. We have a trade dispute on a planet that we've never seen before called Naboo.
Naboo?
Yeah.
Naboo?
Naboo.
Babu frick.
Eh. But we learned that the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, who is its leader, has dispatched 2 Jedi Knights to kind of go in, negotiate, try to see if hey, is there any way that you whatever you're selling or trading with, can you just like move your blockade just a few light years away from this planet? But one of them is a new Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson, who's one of the best things about this movie, and his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So young Ben Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor, who was channeling Alec Guinness.
Played by Alec Guinness.
Channeling Alec Guinness. Yes. Thank you.
And boy, does he do an amazing job.
I think he does too. I think
he
that...
He definitely did his homework just in the mannerisms.
The accent even.
The accent and just like mimicking how Alec talked, his inflections.
Oh yeah.
And just, it was perfect.
While still balancing the impulsiveness of a youth as well.
Yep.
I mean, because it's weird that he's still that old and still an apprentice, because Anakin was able to become a Jedi Knight at what, like 19?
Yeah, maybe he was a bad apprentice.
Maybe. Or maybe he just really loved the fatherly relationship that he had with Qui-Gon, because you have to remember when you're taken in as an infant in the Jedi Order, you're supposed to sever all attachment. But anyway, we learned that the Viceroy is in league with this mysterious hooded robed guy called Darth Sidious. I wonder if we've seen him before.
Well, the voice kind of does sound familiar, but time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. But instantly, Darth Sidious is talking to these aliens who were accused of being stereotypes of Asian businessmen. I don't see it at all.
But I didn't get that at all. But
no, I mean they're just fish people.
Yeah.
But we get to see the Jedi in their prime at this point, because they send in these security droids to kill them because they try to gas them. Then they send in security droids to do cleanup, and this is when we get to see Jedi actually using their peacekeeping tools for kicking butt, taking names, and doing awesome stuff. And this was something that we had really never seen before, right?
Well, not
to an extent.
Probably the most display of power we have seen has pretty much come from Vader.
Yeah.
Because he, at the point in time of the original trilogy, he was the strongest Jedi.
Yeah.
And even at that point, because Vader's body had been mangled.
Yeah.
To all get out.
Yeah.
And he was definitely not in his prime. Vader was more brute strength.
Yes.
In his fighting style and the way he conducted himself, as where what we saw in the prequels was, like you said, Jedi at their prime, at the prime of their fighting style. The fighting style was on display. You could see, and I love how you saw a little bit of Obi-Wan's fighting style come out in just the prequels from what we saw from Sir Alec Guinness. Like, you could tell that was there, and I appreciate that attention to detail that they gave.
Oh yeah, and I think this was also during the time, or we're not going to go into this, but I think this is during the time where they started coming up with names and different forms for types of lightsaber battle or fighting styles. But this was also the first time that we had seamlessly seen a combo integration of lightsaber combos and force powers at the same time, and I think that was really cool. And one of the standout moments that has always stayed with me is when Qui-Gon is trying to open up the blast door with his lightsaber, and I think that was just so awesome. And you can tell that he's channeling the Force when he's trying to melt through. But one of the things that stood out to me this time around was how primitive the battle droids are, because they're very robotic, they're very subservient, and they also lack a personality that we haven't seen before. Whereas in the original trilogy, you had C-3PO and R2-D2 who had personalities, whereas the battle droids are basically just programmable, mindless drones.
And I mean, that's probably, it makes sense, because that was what probably they were built for. I mean, the Empire, they're probably easy to mass produce, so you can build up an army easily, and B, you don't have to worry about, them going rogue. You can program them to pretty much do whatever objective you want them to do.
Right.
It still being very primitive technology, as we saw.
Which is a weird counterbalance, because during this whole fiasco, we also get the droidicas, who are like these, who can like roll into battle, unfurl, and then start blasting away while also having a shield generator around them. So a weird contrast in style.
No, it's funny it's funny how they didn't incorporate that shield generator technology into like stormtrooper armor and stuff.
Yeah,
that would have come in pretty handy. Don't
yeah, with shields and batons and all that stuff. Yeah. But this is a prequel. We're retroactively going back. Everything's not going to be accounted for, even though Lucas has tried to do that in previous years. But after this is when the Jedi escape, and we go down to the planet of Naboo as the Trade Federation is landing. So we get to see some deforestation. We had seen that a few years ago with Ferngully and Princess Mononoke. But unfortunately, we don't have any sort of Tim Curry cameo.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. But now that we're on the planet of Naboo, I think that we should go ahead and address the Gungan in the room. You want to go ahead and talk about Jar Jar?
Let's go.
Okay. My take on Jar Jar is this. The character itself, a little bit of him goes a long way. He's not the strongest. He doesn't have a lot of good comedy. He could have been done better, but this is in no way a slight against Ahmed Best.
No, Ahmed Best is amazing. Like, that dude killed it, and he definitely did not deserve any of the backlash that he got because of his portrayal.
Right.
Because, I mean, he was just following orders. Like,
right.
He was making the movie that George told him to make.
Yeah.
And I on Jar Jar, I agree with you. I appreciate Jar Jar for what he was. Could he be a little more toned down? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they tried too much to make him as a Chewbacca character, but giving him...
Oh, really? Really? Well, you think that they were going for a Chewbacca? I think that they were just going for more of a slapstick thing for kids.
Chewbacca as in, like, the creature sidekick.
Okay.
The creature sidekick.
Okay.
But, Chewbacca really didn't have a voice, so therefore, a lot of the comedy aspect you couldn't do with him.
Right.
And I think giving Jar Jar a mouth was a big issue.
And a voice.
But that's on George Lucas. But yeah, if they would have just toned down the comedy with Jar Jar, actually made him contribute more to the story.
Yeah.
Because I really do like what they did later on with making him, with Jar Jar's current character arc. I don't understand how they would, why they chose to put him into the political arena.
Right.
But I like that development of his character if
Yeah.
he was a little more grounded character personality-wise.
Yeah, I was thinking another potential arc that they could have gone through is because the reason he is up on the surface, he's an amphibious character, which means he's more acclimated to water, but we learned that the reason he's on the surface is because he got banished. What if he was
banished.
Yeah. What if a potential arc for him or story would have been he got banished and now he's a lone wolf type warrior who's just like wandering and
or have like a redemption arc for Jar Jar to where like after the Battle of Naboo and after like he helped in defeating the droid army that they promoted him to like one of the leaders in Gungan City. Like he got shot up to one of the higher ups, like he was control of the army or whatever.
He was on like the boss council or whatever. Yeah. I mean, like he's made a general before the conflict starts, but promoting him more probably would have helped. But we'll get into that. I guess I should have prefaced this. We're actually going to be doing these in two parts because we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot of content for
you guys. We got a lot to talk about. But I even Obi-Wan is annoyed by this guy because at one point he refers to him as a pathetic life form. He basically bullies him into taking them to the city, the underwater city. But I just don't understand that George is making a character for children, a character that he has claimed was the key to episode 1, and he even has his main characters treat him with this hostility.
Yeah, he was just a joke the entire movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that he's aimed toward children, but even as a kid, there were times where he grated on me.
Like at 11 years old, I didn't care for Jar Jar. He was probably my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was more interested in wanting to get to Anakin Skywalker more than anything, because when you saw that teaser poster of little Jake Lloyd and his shadow is
Darth
Vader,
yeah,
I mean,
powerful.
oh yeah, but yeah, Jar Jar could have been better, but Ahmed Best just went through so much crap that he did not deserve. I mean, at one point, did he actually try to kill himself, or did he just say, "I was plagued with thoughts of it"?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think he may have just had thoughts. I don't know if he actually ever tried it.
Yeah.
And
luckily, people came to their senses.
And I mean, same thing
with Jake Lloyd. Yeah. I mean, he said that he got picked on in school incessantly. There were people who were constantly making lightsaber sounds around him, and I think at one point he said that he just dropped out entirely, and he's also went through a rough life as well. I mean, I don't even know if he even shows up at conventions at all anymore.
I don't know. I
know that the little Boba Fett kid has. I mean, he's been doing that for quite a while.
Yeah, he's been riding that train hard.
Oh yeah, because I don't know if he's had any acting prospects ever since episode 2.
Honestly, I don't even think I'd recognize him if I saw him now.
No, but now that we've seen the surface, and it's like, okay, we've seen a forest planet before, but now we get George's imagination and a start of world building. So we have an entire alien species underwater in this city that basically resembles a bunch of glowing bubbles, and I think that is beautiful design. I think that's incredible, especially with how immaculate it is on the inside, and how the shields in this movie are basically just some sort of gelatinous material that you can just walk through.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Invisible barriers.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's wise that Jar Jar, being a banished citizen, should walk through and loudly announce, "So good being home!"
Not his smartest moment, no.
And instantly it attracts the local security force. I remember as a kid playing the video game, the Episode 1 tie-in game. There's this entire level that takes place in the Gungan city, and you're going around taking these bubble elevators and trying to get to the little holding area where the little subs are. But there's sections, there's hallways that are being guarded by these Gungan soldiers, and one of the recycled lines that you hear over and over in that level is, "Oh, you's gonna get pasted, Outlander." But I also forgot one thing about Jar Jar is that David Prowse at one point, David Prowse, Darth Vader himself, called him the hip-hop C-3PO.
Sure.
Yeah. And another thing, I don't want to keep harping on this, but this is one of the big points, was that they were saying that pretty much all of the alien species in this thing were supposed to be some sort of racist caricature of stereotypes. I know that we touched on it with the Viceroy.
Yeah.
People were saying that Jar Jar and the Gungans were supposed to be a negative stereotype of like tribal people, and even going so far as to saying that his ears resembled dreadlocks. And they also said that Watto was anti-Semitic because he has a big nose, he speaks with a thick accent, and he's greedy. Well, so, yeah.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s, but I don't think that George was intentionally trying to do this.
No, it wasn't on purpose. I mean, people, especially nowadays, don't want to get too political into this, but nowadays, people will find anything to pick apart anything for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even at one point in an interview, George even said that he thought the Dredd argument was ridiculous.
Yeah. People reach a lot of times, and
I mean,
I don't see it if it was there.
Yeah. I think the ears thing was kind of playing into what you said about Chewbacca with the creature's sidekick. Maybe it was supposed to be like, he has like, floppy ears like a dog.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of treated like a pet throughout this thing. So yeah, and now we get to go through the planet core. This was cool. We've never seen any. I mean, we've seen space travel. We've seen intestinal slug travel, but we've never had water travel before in Star Wars. And I think that this was very nice because the sub is small. And it doesn't have a cockpit. It's got those little bubbles over it to protect the thing from flooding. But we also get to see what aquatic marine life looks like in Star Wars. And basically, in the words of Qui-Gon, there's always a bigger fish. Yep. And we get 3 examples of this within, 5 minutes?
Well, one thing that I noticed about that scene, my rewatch last night, so I thought it was funny how, like, when the bigger fish pops up, like Jar Jar's freaking out. Even Obi-Wan is seen to be
calm.
A little. I mean, he has a calm demeanor, but you can tell he's kind of freaked out.
Right.
Then Qui-Gon's in the back. He just looks annoyed. He's like, oh god.
Yeah.
Just thinking, like, just go. Like it doesn't even faze him.
Yeah, well, this movie was actually one of the reasons where shortly after Liam Neeson was contemplating about retiring from acting altogether. But
Well, I mean, I'm not talking about like from act, but just
yeah.
like being like the Jedi with nerves of steel. Like,
Oh, okay, the character.
yeah, I'm talking about character wise. Like,
Yeah.
because of his training and his attunement with the Force. Like, he's just annoyed. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this again, like another one. Come on, I just want to get to the surface.
Yeah.
Like at one point, I even think I saw him roll his eyes. He's like, oh god. This
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Like just go, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and he even I would say that he uses the Force to calm Jar Jar down at one point when Jar Jar's freaking out. And during that scene, Obi-Wan goes, "I think we overdid it." Do you think they were trolling with him when the power went out?
Probably.
That's terrible. I guess we should say, like, we have to backtrack a little bit because Jar Jar's banished, so he's not allowed in the city. Yet you may be wondering, why is he with the Jedi? Because when they went before the council, Qui-Gon asked what was going to become of him, and the leader of the Gungans, Boss Nass, said that he was going to be punished. But Qui-Gon pulled a mind trick and said, his life belongs to me now because he claims to owe me a life debt since I saved him. So that's why Jar Jar is tagging along for this adventure. Because if Qui-Gon truly didn't care, Jar Jar's head would have been on a silver platter by the time they left the city.
Well, and another reason why they brought him along too was they needed a navigator, and Jar Jar knew the way to the surface.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it was a win-win for everybody.
That's right. Has he gone through the core before?
Jar Jar
braver than
probably
we
has,
think.
unless he's just faking it and just pulling it out of his butt.
Right. I like how when that one fish grabs the first fish that caught them with the tongue, I love how he stands up erect, bites the head off, and just throws the body out. That was cool.
Yeah, that was cold.
Oh yeah. So the Trade Federation has invaded Naboo, and they're trying to take the Queen and her people hostage so that they can force her to sign a treaty to make this blockade legal. But that's when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon show up, free the Queen, and they get the heck out of Dodge because they're saying, we need to get to the Senate because they can do something about this. So we're heading to the capital of the Republic, which is this planet called Coruscant, which we'll get into more of in part 2. But so far, they have escaped the planet, and they encounter the blockade, which destroys their shield generator. So, in the words of Captain Panaka, if they don't fix the shield generator, we'll be sitting ducks. So apparently ducks exist in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But this is also where we also get the reintroduction of R2-D2. He's a personal mechanic on the Queen's ship as part of 6 or 8 astro droids, all of which get blown up, but he survives. Yeah. Yeah.
That's R2-D2, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's R2-D2. So yeah, R2-D2 single-handedly repairs the shield generator and gets them past the blockade. So once again, R2 coming to the rescue,
Right.
as he did on Cloud City. So after they get past there, the ship's computer reads that their hyperdrive is leaking, so they basically can't make the jump to light speed to get to Coruscant. So they have to land somewhere to refuel and repair. And
what's the closest planet to
Tatooine.
them? Tatooine.
Lo and behold. But Panaka's against it because
It's controlled by the Hutts.
as he says, you can't take a Royal Highness there. The Hutts are gangsters. and Qui-Gon's just like, dude, relax.
Yeah.
We're gonna be fine. There's no Trade Federation presence here. It's okay.
I like how Qui-Gon's always the voice of reason. Like everybody's like tripping out around him.
Yeah.
He's just like the old hippie that's like, chill, man, chill. It's gonna be
Yeah.
good. We got this.
Qui-Gon's been around the block quite a while. For quite a while
He's
now.
got a particular set of skills that makes him a dangerous to Sith.
And speaking of Sith, during this whole time, Darth Sidious has been communicating back and forth with the Viceroy, and he's wondering at one point, hey, you've landed on the planet. Has the Queen signed the treaty yet? And the Viceroy is like, well, she kind of escaped the planet, so no. And that's when he gets mad and he's like, okay, I have to pull out the big guns now. And we get a new character, Darth Maul. So he sends him out to track down the ship. And Darth Maul, focal point of the entire marketing for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He was on... one of the pieces of marketing that they did was Pepsi released a line of all of their cans of their products, and each one had a character from the movie on it.
My dad has every single one lined up in his office.
We had collected all of them except two. Both were Mountain Dew. We never got Darth Maul, and we never got Jar Jar.
Dude,
the most loved character and the most hated character.
Yep.
We did not get those two, and we tried. But Darth Maul, he is by far the scariest looking character we've ever had. He's from a species called a Zabrak or Zabrak. Basically, he has this red and black painted face. He's got like a crown of thorns around his or like spikes, horns. And he is not only very agile, but he's very, very vicious. Yeah,
Unrelenting.
Oh yeah, unrelenting. And he and Sidious are ready to start enacting the plan of saying, "Hey, baby, the Sith are back.
Yep.
We're gonna Sith things up here."
Well, in the words of Darth Maul, at last we reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
At last we will have
our
revenge. And let me just say, for trying to find a guy who is not only agile but perfect in swordsmanship, since lightsaber combat is going to be a huge part of this, and not only lightsaber combat but flashy, like anime style lightsaber combat, you couldn't have gotten anyone more perfect to play Darth Maul than Ray Park.
Nah.
I mean, he is, gosh, the physicality, the moves that he has. I mean, he brought his A game to this movie for the unfortunate small amount of time that he has. Yeah. So unfortunate and so beloved a character that Lucas had to find a way to resurrect him in the Clone Wars. Yeah. Now, in the Clone Wars, he was voiced by Sam Witwer, wasn't he? Okay.
Yeah, Sam Witwer. Star Killer.
Oh, yeah. So... yeah, we'll talk about Starkiller later, but I guess you can tell we love Darth Maul. Darth Maul is primo supremo in this movie.
One of my top 3 Sith Lords.
Oh yeah, I'm guessing the other two are Palpy and Vader.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so we land on Tatooine, and that is when Qui-Gon is like, okay, we need to find a hyperdrive generator. So I understand R2 coming along because he has a schematic readout of the ship, most likely. I understand Jar Jar because kids, but he also has the life debt, so I guess you could see him as like, I'm gonna be your useless bodyguard.
Yeah.
But why does Padme need to come along?
Because she's curious and wants to make sure that they don't do anything that's gonna cause some trouble, because Qui-Gon didn't know this, but Padme's actually the queen, so it makes sense that she would want to tag along to see what's this crazy rogue Jedi gonna do, like what's the game plan here. It's more for surveillance, really.
Okay.
That's how I took it, kind of like tagging along,
right,
kind of second set of eyes.
Right. I remember I actually had a episode 1 book that was all from the perspective of Padme, and it's basically like her journal. And at one point, the scene where Qui-Gon is wagering the ship for the pod race bet, in the book she actually goes, "Who does he think he is betting my ship in a race?"
And one of my favorite lines is, at the time you don't really think much of it.
Right.
But when Qui-Gon's telling her his plan, and she says, "The Queen will not approve," and he says, "The Queen doesn't ask to know."
And then
Well,
she
I don't
goes,
approve.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
she's the Queen.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're like, the crap doesn't matter if you don't approve.
Right.
You're a handmaiden. Who
Yeah.
are you?
So the Force leads them to this junk shop owned by the supposed anti-Semitic Watto.
Jupiter.
Yeah, and he has one, but unfortunately he won't budge for Republic credits because he wants real money.
Only money.
But this is also where a character by the name of Anakin Skywalker shows up. Is this someone we've seen before?
It sounds familiar. Like, I think he was in like some of the marketing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Skywalker sounds familiar.
He's this little kid, and he asks Padme if she's an angel.
He's not a kid. He's a person, and his name is Anakin.
Oh, right. Sorry. Are you an angel? I think we
You're 10
also
years
need
old.
to. Yeah, 9.
9.
Yeah. Basically, the disclaimer that we had for Jar Jar basically just applies to Jake Lloyd. I think that Jake Lloyd does have some good line delivery at points in this movie, though.
I mean, he's a kid. Like, you can't really make. Sorry, you can't really take digs at him because of his acting experience. He's a kid. Like, he's not gonna be, Liam Neeson style like act. You can't expect that from a kid.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there are some good kid actors out there, but not all of them are going to perform to the caliber that you want them to. And we don't want to turn into 2021 Twitter Mark Hamill narking on a little kid. Oh, boy. So we start hanging out with Anakin a little bit because he saves Jar Jar's bacon from almost being killed by his racing rival, an extremely dangerous dog called Sebulba. But we start hanging around, and that's when Qui-Gon starts sensing that, hey, there's something different. There's something special about this boy. And I really like the interaction that he has with his mother, Shmi. I think that Shmi is one of the unsung heroes of this movie. I think she really gives a very good performance, especially during the scene where she's explaining that, hey, there was no father. I love how Williams starts to bring in or tie in the theme of family here, because when Shmi says there was no father, but we also know that Anakin is a Skywalker, Williams starts bringing back in the binary sunset music.
Yep.
So it's like, oh yeah, we know where this is gonna go. But yeah, do you have any problem with the Immaculate Conception of Anakin Skywalker? I know that it's very similar to Mary having Jesus, but do you have a problem with it?
I don't.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Because it brings a certain mysticism around Anakin.
Yeah.
Because it was prophesied. He was in prophecy to bring balance to the Force.
Right.
And
which we just find out about now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who have not watched the original trilogy, first of all, how dare you?
Right.
But
what are you doing here?
Yeah, but second of all, they never mentioned anything about a prophecy or bringing balance to the Force or even a chosen one. And
And it's a good way to bring Anakin's story full circle.
Right.
Because knowing,
who he's going to become.
His redemption in Return of the Jedi, and that it was actually prophesied that he would fulfill this.
Right.
And it just brings his story full circle, I think.
Yeah, and I guess you could say maybe it also makes it a little painful seeing this child with such great potential, and who he's going to become down the line. So, Which I heard this in another podcast, and I want to elaborate on this a little bit. Do you think in order for us to have seen the potential that Anakin had for evil, do you think that in this movie they should have shown that by having him maybe unintentionally hurt or even kill someone unintentionally with the Force?
I I don't know if they should have went that far,
Right.
but I do think there should have been more hints.
Okay.
Because in this movie, Anakin is still pretty innocent. Like, there's
Yeah.
not really a lot of indicators
Yeah.
that there is something darker brewing in him.
Even though for some reason the council says there is, but it's just like, no.
The biggest thing we get is that, you know, he's had a pretty terrible life. You know,
Yeah.
he is a slave. He works most of his life. You know,
Yeah.
it's just him and his mom.
Right.
So that aspect is there, but I think there should have been more.
Yeah.
And I know they highlight that more in the later movies, but
Right.
I would have liked to gotten more in the first movie just to kind of foreshadow that.
Yeah. Do you also have a problem with him building C-3PO?
No,
No. Yeah.
no. I mean, I think it's a good origin story for C-3PO.
Yeah.
And ties him more into the grander scheme of things.
Yeah. And I like, you know, their, you know, him and R2-D2 meeting for the first
Yeah.
time, and he finds out that he's naked.
Sorry.
And he finds out that he's naked. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's funny. But yeah, there's some really good moments in that dinner table scene where Padme says, "Oh, like, you know, is there anything that we can do to like, you know, be able to get our hyperdrive because someone has to have a weakness?" And Shmi's like, "Oh, everything here revolves around gambling on these races," and how she says, you know, I hate it every time that Watto makes you race, Anakin. It kills me inside. And how and then just how Anakin, this is one of Jake Lloyd's good line deliveries, is when he says, Mom, you said the biggest problem in this universe is that no one helps each other. And I think that was one of this is the scene that started, you know, paving his path forward. So you know, Qui-Gon senses it, but he doesn't really fully know what's going on. He can sense that there's the Force with him, but you know, he cleverly does a little trick because somehow Anakin got a cut, but he says that he's checking his blood for infection, and then he says he's sending the blood report to Dr. Obi-Wan on the ship, and he goes, I need a midichlorian count. We'll get into midichlorians in part 2, but Obi-Wan says the reading's off the chart. Not even Master Yoda has a count this high. And Qui-Gon goes, no Jedi has. And Obi-Wan goes, what does that mean? And Qui-Gon goes, I'm not sure, but he has an inkling of an idea. Yeah. But anyway, we find out that the big sport on this planet is this NASCAR type thing called pod racing.
To Eve.
Oh yeah, and this is where George's past comes in, because as a youth he loved fast cars, and he also had ambitions of becoming a race car driver before a crash in his early years prompted him to turn to filmmaking.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, when he was in the hospital, that was when he started looking up at the ceiling and just rethinking his life. And I think that was maybe where, not the idea, but some seed for Star Wars got planted in him when he was in the hospital.
Oh wow.
And then that's when he started reading. That's when he started getting into the hero's journey thing by reading The Hero of a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, and that was when everything just started to come together for him in film school.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this is George's past coming into play, and I think that this is another example of George just showing fantastic imagination, because this thing is fast, it's bombastic. apparently there's no rules except win at whatever cost
Right.
because these pod racers can just kill each other and they're not going to say anything. And they also
For the
have
thrill of the sport.
yeah, and they also have the potential for danger because not only is there this hazardous stalagmite cave where that one guy goes wham and runs into it, but they also have to take this. Yeah, they also have to take this embanked turn, and there's Tusken Raiders just shooting at them.
Yeah, like
Yeah, and they don't send security or Tatooine cops out to evict them from the premises. The two announcers are just like, looks like a few Tusken Raiders are camped out on the Canyon Dune turn.
you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, and it's a stupid line, but I love, oh, I don't care what universe you're from, that's gotta hurt.
Ooh, ooh,
Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Greg Proops, that's that guy's name.
Greg.
Greg Proops.
There's a Greg from Tatooine.
Oh, one of the pod racers is actually being hunted by a bounty hunter in the episode 1 game, and he's drunk like the entire time in that game.
So was he one of the ones that crashed?
Yes.
He
Yes.
was drunk.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Don't drink and pod race people.
yeah, he is drunk throughout the 2 levels of the game that he's in, and then you run into this guy who looks like Greedo but he's not. And when I was talking to him, Qui-Gon, because you play as Qui-Gon in this level, obviously, and Qui-Gon asks, "Who are you?" And this guy goes, "I'm Gene Na, a bounty hunter." And Qui-Gon goes, "Who are you looking for?" And he goes, "The pod racer named Teamto. Have you seen
Teamto.
him?" Yeah. And, me being the truthful Jedi that I am, I ratted him out and I said, yes, he's drinking in the lounge right downstairs. And he goes, "Thank you. I will finally capture Teamto and Jabba will feed him to the Sarlacc tomorrow." If only we had gotten that alternate history instead.
Where was that?
But unfortunately, in the canon timeline, Teamto just died in the pod race. Yeah, and one of the great things about the pod race is that there's no music until the very end.
Yeah.
I mean, this is showing Ben Burtt's talent, like we said in Return of the Jedi. This is one of the great moments of pure sound imagination running wild, because
especially seeing it in theaters with the surround sound of the pod racing.
Oh yeah, and I saw this thing like 3 times in theaters. And oh my gosh, like we were describing the other time of how he had to come up with all these sounds once again, because pod racing is basically like the Star Wars version of NASCAR. So what are these fast hodgepodge machines going to sound like? Yeah.
They did an amazing job.
Yes, it was so. Oh my gosh, just so many good. Yeah. I mean, each pod racer has a distinct sound. And this was also where Aura Singh had her little cameo.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe in this timeline she was hunting Teamto.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe she was just waiting for whoever her bounty was to crash, and then she would just go out and collect the body. Who knows? Because she's like one of the ones who's chilling with Boba Fett in like the comics and stuff, right? Yeah. So she had her little cameo in this. She's one of the spectators looking out on a balcony at the very beginning, and we also get another original trilogy character returning. We get Jabba in this scene.
Yeah.
He looks better in this than he did in the original trilogy.
A little thinner.
In the special edition, yeah.
A little thinner.
Yeah. He's still eating his pally frogs, and he still has Bib Fortuna with him, and there's a girl standing off to the side who's wearing the Slave Leia top, but apparently Jabba had decency standards at that time, so she has pants on.
Right.
And there's that other hut behind him. Was that his wife or girlfriend or something? Maybe, maybe one of his.
Or
Maybe one of
family.
those huts that was being carried in the book of Boba Fett to be like, hey, we're leaving the planet now. Don't worry, it's just the it's just the blizzard.
More storms on Camino,
Yeah, but we're on Hoth, so
Well, it's starting to look like Camino.
Yeah. But anything else we need to say more about the pod racer? I mean, there's a
Sebulba's
camel.
awesome. I love Sebulba.
There's a camel that farts in Jar Jar's face, and he goes "P.U.S.A."
More unnecessary comedy.
Yeah. So yeah, Anakin obviously wins the pod race because Qui-Gon made a bet with Watto that first of all, he makes a bet that was saying like, hey, if we win, then you give me the hyperdrive free of charge. If not, then you can have the ship.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think Anakin would have been as good as he was if he wasn't force sensitive? Because he said he was the only human that could do it.
And Qui-Gon even comments, you must have Jedi reflexes if you can raise pods. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so, yeah. I mean, so good thing he had that high midichlorian count. So, but going back to the bet, Qui-Gon says that if we win, you give us the hyperdrive free of charge. If not, you get to keep the ship. But then he one-ups it when Watto reveals that he took all of the money and bet it on Sebulba. And Qui-Gon says, oh, also if we win, then you free Anakin. And
well, didn't he originally want Anakin and his mom? And then Watto talked him down to just Anakin?
Yeah, because Qui-Gon was like, I'll wager it against, say, the boy and his mother, and then Watto goes, no pod is worth 2 slaves, and Qui-Gon's just like, okay, the boy then. Yeah. And then Watto's like, I just happen to have a chance cube. Blue, the boy, red, his mother. And then he rolls it, and it goes to Anakin, and then Anakin wins. Anakin wins, and then Anakin gets freed, and Qui-Gon says, oh, hey, you're no longer a slave. And then Anakin's like, so I can come with you now? And he's like, yeah, you can. And Anakin's like, oh, great, because I've always dreamed of being a Jedi. And Qui-Gon even says, it's not going to be an easy life. And he's like, well, this is what I've dreamed of doing. And he even said before at the dinner table that he had a dream that he was a Jedi and came to free all the slaves. And he goes, he packs his things, he's ready to go off with Qui-Gon, but this is where we start to see a little bit of weakness because all that he has in this world is his mom. And this was another good performant line delivery from Jake Lloyd is when he's trying to hold back tears, but he asks his mom, will I ever see you again? And then he says, I will come back and free you. And this hits so much harder when we get into episode 2. So I think that was a perfect line delivery from him. But now we're ready to leave Tatooine. But before they can escape, Darth Maul shows up.
Yeah, he does.
And he has a speeder to catch up to them, but he doesn't care what happens. He jumps off and just immediately starts going ham on Qui-Gon. And this was just insane because I mean, sure, Qui-Gon has done combat training with other Jedi, but he's never faced anyone as fierce as this because at this point, the Sith, as we're going to reveal later on, the Jedi Council say, well, it's impossible that this man that attacked you could have been a Sith because they've been extinct. So Qui-Gon has never faced a Sith before, someone this fierce and this agile and fast, and someone who's just feeding off of the dark side to give him an edge. Yeah, so Qui-Gon barely escapes by the skin of his teeth, and he even says, I don't know who that was, but he was well trained in the Jedi arts. Yeah. So it's like, oh, whoa, this is, so yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen Sith before, but never anyone doing the stuff that Darth Maul has done.
Nah.
So, Do you think he let them get away?
No, knowing his mission, probably not.
Yeah, because
think
because he was there to get the queen. That's right.
Yeah, and
yeah.
especially with how fiercely he went after Qui-Gon. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think he let them get away.
Right. Yeah. But and we'll wrap this up with one of the greatest lines of the movie. Anakin Skywalker meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The start of something beautiful and tragic.
Oh yeah, and I just love Anakin's enthusiasm when he's like, "You're a Jedi too?"
Yep.
It's like, "Oh yeah." It's like, "Oh kid, you have no idea."
So buckle up, Buttercup.
Oh yeah. You know, imagine the angle that they could have gone if, you know, things had gone right. Could you imagine Qui-Gon being a father to Anakin and then him having Obi-Wan as like a brother type?
Dude, that'd have been sweet.
Yeah, you know, if everything had gone right, and I've heard that that's one of the things that hurt Anakin because during his
the movie
training,
would be 2 men and a Skywalker.
oh yeah, because this is one of the things that hurt him because Qui-Gon was the closest thing that he had to a father, and when he lost that, he, you know, Obi-Wan was fulfilling his obligation to Qui-Gon, but the problem with Obi-Wan was that he was more of like a brother type.
Yeah.
He was never, you know, a father figure to
Qui-Gon
Anakin.
was the father figure.
Yeah, and you know, in episode 2, Anakin will even comment to Obi-Wan that, you know, you're the closest thing I have to a father, but in reality, Qui-Gon was.
Yeah.
But I think that we should end it up right there. I think we got
that's
through
a
a
good
lot
spot.
of a lot of good for what we wanted, but we'll be coming back with part 2 to finish this movie out.
Yes, so stay tuned, guys, and y'all be safe out there, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Godspeed. Okay. Coming to you live once again from the snowy dunes of Hoth, it's Echo Base Radio, broadcasting in 12 parsecs. Green Leader 99 along with... Fake.